Viva NOLA TV is brought to you by State Farm Agent Thelma Ceballos Myers, 504-366-1155. Romy Gonzalez and Associates, because experience matters, 504-581-2000. Fidelity Bank Power, a program designed to meet the unique needs of women in business. Bankwithfidelity.com. And by your New Orleans Geico insurance agent, Alan Boudreau, 504-457-2345. Welcome to Viva NOLA TV. I'm Ana Maria Beck. On tonight's episode, we'll have a very insightful discussion about immigration and detainee centers in Louisiana during this COVID-19 crisis. We'll talk to Homero Lopez from ISLA Immigration. We'll visit with two residents and business owners from the city of Kenner who teamed up to give free meals to first responders. And Mayra Pineda from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce will give us some updates on their programs. Stay with us. Joining us tonight to talk about immigration and the conditions of the detainee centers in Louisiana is Homero Lopez from ISLA Immigration. Homero, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Homero, explain to us, what is the government's power to detain immigrants?
Right. With immigration, you have two different types of detention. Detention is detention, but legally speaking, you have something that's called mandatory detention. And mandatory detention is for people who have been convicted of certain crimes and for people who have a previous order of removal or fall within various subclasses of immigration cases. That is a very small part of the people that are detained in Louisiana and nationwide. It's the majority of people that are detained are what's called discretionary detention, which is ICE makes a decision that they're going to continue to detain these folks, regardless of whether they have a criminal background or not. ICE bases it off of an analysis that they say that this person is too much of a flight risk or is too much of a risk to the community. The risk to the community part comes into their criminal background, and the flight risk comes to how many ties you have to the community, how likely it is that you're going to win your case, what's the likelihood that you'll continue your case if you get released from detention. And so the way this happens is ICE makes that determination first. Depending on somebody's status, they might get to go in front of a judge and have that judge check ICE's decision and either agree with ICE or the judge instead says, no, we're going to give this person a bond.
So what does immigration look like in Louisiana?
So immigration detention, particularly in Louisiana, is a little bit complex, particularly because the detention centers are in central, rural, isolated areas of Louisiana. They're far away from metropolitan areas. The nearest one is 3 hours away from New Orleans. Before COVID, that was a problem because it made it difficult for attorneys to go visit. It made it difficult for family members to visit or send money or send documents or get documents together that the person needs to present for their case. After COVID, it's made it even worse because what we have is attorneys now, not only is it difficult to visit because of the location, it's become nearly impossible because many of the locations have shut down visitation. They first shut down family visitation completely, and then they started to limit and then shut down attorney visitation as well. Some of the facilities have Skype availability, and so we can do a video call with a client, and some of them don't. Some of them you can only do a phone call with the client. And preparing somebody for their case, for their asylum case, or for whatever case they have coming forward over the phone, sometimes with other people in that same room talking, with them not feeling comfortable to open up and discuss their case in full, makes it really, really complicated and really difficult. So a lot of what's been happening is the cases keep on getting continued.
Wow. So many challenges. And when we're talking about detainees in Louisiana, How many are we talking about related with immigration, and how is that different from the nation?
So nationally, as of May 9th of this year, so last week, ICE released their numbers as to how many people are currently detained nationally. And that's just under 28,000. It's 27,908 is how many they had as of May 9th in detention across the country. We don't have the exact numbers about Louisiana. What we know amongst colleagues and anecdotally, and what the capacity is at the various detention centers, it looks like we're somewhere in the 4,000 to 5,000 range of people that are being detained in Louisiana. At the end of last year, we were at 8,000, 8 to 9,000. So at the beginning of this year, we're now, or at this point of the year, we're now at about 4,000 to 5,000. Part of that has to do with just the cycle. A lot less people are coming in. Obviously, with COVID, the border has basically been shut down. People aren't really coming in. And so the new people that are being taken to detention are people that are being arrested by ICE in the United States and then being taken into detention. Louisiana accounts for approximately 20%, a little over, a little under, depending on how you look at it, or depending on any given point, of what the national ICE detention is. We are the state with the second largest detained immigrant population in the country, and we are seeing a lot of that also reflected on the COVID side. From the information that ICE has provided, there are 965 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in detention across the country. 180 of those cases are in Louisiana detention centers, which accounts for 18.7% of the population in detention that is infected with COVID right now.
So this brings up two questions from me. Why don't we know the exact numbers? Like, why doesn't ICE release those numbers? Shouldn't that be something available to the public?
We would love to know those numbers. Congress would love to know those exact numbers. And generally, ICE does not respond to public inquiries. They don't even respond to congressional inquiries. We're working with, on our Free Them All campaign, we're working with Congressmember Cedric Richmond's office about getting this information, figuring out how many people are detained, who's detained where, what's the policy for each individual detention center, because it doesn't seem that ICE has a general overarching policy on how to address COVID in detention. It seems like it's ad hoc being done by each facility a little bit differently. And so we're working with him and his office to try to get that information, but even he isn't able to really get that much information. Honestly, ICE is a rogue agency. It doesn't have much oversight. It doesn't respond very often to Congress. It is pretty much given a lot of power and a lot of leeway to act with impunity and to do as it wants. And that's part of what we want to bring attention to, have people recognize that these things are happening, and ask your congressmen, ask your representatives to make sure that they speak out and they demand this information from ICE. And if they won't give this information, then defund ICE, take away their funding to make them incapable of being able to carry out these actions.
And that's something that can create a lot of confusion, because obviously ICE has to do with detaining illegal immigration. So if that entity were to be defunded, how will the borders be protected and who will oversee that?
Prior to 2000, I think it was 2001, after 9/11, so prior to 2002, we didn't have ICE. We haven't had ICE before. We've had a world without ICE. We can have a world after that and have a world that is protected. We can have border security and we can address those issues through other mechanisms. One of the things that people also bring up is ICE does human trafficking investigations. Yes, they do. And so does the FBI. Right. And so we can fund a task force at the FBI. We can fund other areas of agencies that are more established, have better oversight, and that can respond better to congressional inquiry and congressional oversight than ICE does, and be able to fund those and not have to have the terrorizing of our communities that we're seeing from ICE.
You were saying there is 189 cases approximately in Louisiana of detainees with COVID. What is how are they taking care of these cases?
180 cases in the state of Louisiana confirmed of detained folks with COVID. Um, what we're hearing from clients, again, we aren't there, we're not inside, we don't, get that information. But for what we're hearing from clients is what they're doing is they're doing these lockdowns of the cells where folks stay. So they call them dorms, as though it's like college. There's these big units of cells of like 5 to 6 cells in one unit, and there's about 60 to 70 total people in that unit. And then they're broken down into individualized cells of somewhere between 6 and 10, depending on the cell size of people per cell. So if one person in a unit shows symptoms and gets tested, he or she will be removed from the unit and will be sent to solitary. And so then they get sent to a solitary confinement unit where they're being held for their protection. That's basically been converted into the medical unit at the facility. And then the rest of the unit gets shut down. They don't all get tested. They get temperature checks on a daily basis. But if no one spikes a temperature or no one else shows another symptom, then they get shut down for 14 days, which means they don't leave that unit. They don't go outside into the yard. They don't get food. They don't go out to get food at the cafeteria. The food gets brought to them to their cells. They basically don't get to leave that unit unless they have to go to the medical unit or unless they have to go do an attorney phone call. Other than that, they're locked in their unit. And so that's the way they're handling it. But they're not testing everybody. And if we look at the numbers of what ICE is doing at the national level, like I said earlier, there's 965 confirmed cases. There have been 804 tests conducted by ICE. That accounts for a 53.5% infection rate. That is ridiculously high. One, because, and from speaking with doctors who are helping and being part of this, Free Them All campaign, that means they're only really testing people with symptoms. They're not testing people who may have come in contact. There's no way to contact trace. There's no way to social distance in a detention center, in a prison, right? There's no way you have a cell with 7 to 8 people in it and that you can be 6 feet apart when you're sharing showers and sharing toilets and your meals are being brought into this confined space where you're all eating together. It's impossible to show social distance in that context. And what we're also hearing from clients is there's no increase in the cleaning and the frequency of cleaning. They're still only getting their cells cleaned twice a day. There's no hand sanitizer. There's no extra soap. None of that is being given to them. And what we're also hearing from clients is that if they're given masks, they're being asked to sign a waiver that says that if they become infected or they get some kind of illness, they will not sue the facility.
I heard there were some discussions about giving permits or paroles or something to individuals that were detained. Is that working? Is that happening?
So there's 2 aspects to it. From immigration, there's something that's called parole, which means if you're somebody who showed up at the border and sought asylum and then had what's called a credible fear interview, you had an interview about whether you should be afraid to go back to your country by an asylum officer, and you were found to have a positive credible fear, then if you can show that you're not a risk to the community and that you're not a flight risk, that you have somebody to receive you, that you have somebody who will, take you in, support you, help you make sure you attend all your hearings when you get released, then they should release you on what's called parole, right? As a country, we don't want to be detaining asylum seekers. That shouldn't be what we're doing. And ICE has an internal policy and a memo that says that that's what they're supposed to do, is release people. They have not been releasing people. They have not been abiding by their own memo. Prior to 2016, 76% of people in that situation who were asylum seekers who got positive credible fears were released on parole. At the end of 2018, that had dropped to 1.5%. Obviously, President Trump got elected. Immigration became a big focus of his administration. And so what we've seen is this politicizing of immigration issues, and in this case, politicizing of people's health. And so what we have is ICE can release folks. They're choosing not to do it. Unfortunately, the state doesn't have a whole lot of power over ICE issues because it's a federal detention facility. Under the state, what the governor is doing is he set up a clemency board to release people from state prisons. And there's a process for submitting your request, having that reviewed. Our colleagues at Vote are doing a lot of really good work on that, and we're working with them. Part of the Free Them All is not only for immigration purposes, it's for prisons as well. We don't think people should be in this situation, should be in prison. Given what COVID is, given what we know happens in prisons and that they serve as petri dishes for infection, we don't think people should be there. To our understanding, 0 people have been released through that process as of today. And so what we ask is that the governor exercise his power to regulate the detention centers, and that the Louisiana Department of Health also exercise their powers to limit the capacity, to make sure that proper hygiene is being carried out, and that the proper steps, the CDC guidelines, are being implemented to make sure that people in detention are not being subjected to higher rates of COVID, as we've seen is happening.
What can regular people do to help this situation?
Contact your governor, contact the Department of Health, the Louisiana Department of Health, the Secretary of Health, contact your representatives, right? Like I said, we're working with Cedric Richmond. He represents New Orleans, some of Jefferson, up into Baton Rouge. But contact, if you're from other parts of the state, contact your representatives from those other parts, especially the parts that have facilities there. If you're from other parts of the state where there are detention centers, contact your local city folks as well. They can demand that these facilities let them know what's going on, because there's an infection that's also happening in the communities, right? The guards are coming in and going out, and those numbers are not reported by ICE, because most of these facilities are run by private prisons and their contractors, and ICE only reports infections by their employees. And so all of these guards in Richwood, 2 guards died 2 weeks ago, I think it was, of COVID. That was not reported by ICE. ICE doesn't report those as numbers of their employees because they're contractors.
Right.
And so there's this infection that's not only happening in the detention center and that the guards are bringing in, but they're also taking it back into their community. They're going to their families, they're going to a restaurant, they're doing things, and it's continuing to affect the community at large. And if ICE doesn't have a plan to limit that spread, then it's going to continue affecting the communities as well.
So I call my representative and what do I say?
You tell them you want them to demand that ICE release people from detention, and if you're calling your local representatives, that you want them to demand from these facilities to know what the plan is. Why are they operating this way? Why are they working at a higher capacity than what the state is allowing? What is their plan? What does it look like? How are they doing this? Again, they're operating basically as black sites. They're areas where people can't get into. You don't get much information. As I said earlier, Congress doesn't get much information from them. So start pushing from the bottom up also. Get your local representatives, your state council, your state city council, your city county councils to make these demands of what's going on in these facilities that are affecting our communities.
Homero, we could talk so much longer about all these issues, but as somebody who doesn't understand these issues that well, I really thank you for helping me understand and navigate through everything that's going on. I'm sure a lot of people are finding this information very helpful to know what all the immigration detention really means. So I appreciate your time. And also, I just recommend that everybody visits ISLA Immigration so that they can get more information and maybe contact you for any further questions. How can they contact you?
They can come on our website, islaimmigration.org, where you have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at ISLA Immigration is the handle on all 3 of those. That's where we put up a lot of our information regarding the campaign on Free Them All, the information on how to contact your representatives, who to contact, the phone numbers to call, the emails to send. That's where we put up all that information. All of those methods, you can contact us as well, send us a message, and we can go from there and follow up as to if people want to participate, help, try to get people out, or how to get engaged on the political side of it.
Once again, Homero, thank you so much for your time and for all this insightful information. We'll be right back.
Mamá, papá, el censo ya llegó. Y es una oportunidad que solo se lleva a cabo cada 10 años.
Llénalo hoy mismo.
Hazlo por internet, por teléfono o por correos. Tus respuestas están protegidas. Y por ley, nadie puede compartir tu información personal. Llena el censo hoy. Te conviene a ti y nos conviene a todos.
Llena el censo hoy. Dale forma a tu futuro. Empieza aquí.
Two business owners and residents of Kenner, Louisiana teamed up to serve delicious food to the first responders of the city of Kenner. Take a look.
So we have Tata Insurance. Kevin with Tata Insurance came out here to do a first responder drive-through luncheon. This is the third one we've actually done. He's doing it, but still, we're out here sponsoring it, you know, helping out with him, giving kind of help that he needs. And we want to thank him and his group for doing this, because having done 3 of these so far, it's showing the first responders that we appreciate what they're doing. I would ask everybody to still, you know, give it a little more time. I do think probably after the 15th, you'll see maybe a slight change, not too much. But I mean, of course, our businesses will be still restricted. They won't have as much, you know, won't be back to full capacity. Our movie theaters won't be back to full capacity. But we have to work through that. You know, it's going to be a strange year. We're trying to get through this as best as we can. I think a lot of people are cooperating. We've taken our part to pop tents up throughout the city of Kenner and let them have tables underneath there, 6 feet apart, which we think is very important. So we're going to support our businesses, we're going to support those restaurants, and we'll move forward with them.
Well, as a business based in Kenner and also resident of Kenner, we just felt it was just a little something we can do for our fire, our EMS, and our police out here. Just a little something, serving them some jambalaya and some ceviches from Tito's. It was just our little part of giving back. We're pulling through this. Everybody's pulling their weight, and you know, this was really mainly just for the fire, the EMS, and the paramedics. But just a big thank you to Kenner for everybody doing their part throughout this crazy time.
My name is Juan Locke. I'm owner of Tito's Ceviche and Pisco on Magazine Street, New Orleans. Even though we have our business in New Orleans, I'm a Kenner resident. So we felt that, you know, together with our restaurant and with Carla, we put this lunch together for all the first responders here in Kenner. So we're very happy to do it, because I know they're working very hard, and this is just a little something that we're giving out to them for their hard work and effort that they're doing to keep our city safe and going through all of this. So we appreciate them, and thank you very much.
Bienvenidos nuevamente a Viva NOLA TV. Nos acompaña en este momento Mayra Pineda de la Cámara de Comercio Hispana de Luisiana. Mayra, gracias por estar con nosotros.
En esta semana que estamos todos llenos de mucha esperanza al iniciar o al llegar finalmente a la primera meta, que era la fase 1. Y eso se debe a que la comunidad ha cooperado en mantenerse en distanciamiento y también en participar en las pruebas. Las pruebas siguen siendo vitales, muy importantes. Y vas a tener que seguir compartiendo los lugares donde hay acceso a esas pruebas para nuestra comunidad, porque a medida vamos erradicando el virus, y lo demuestran en los datos, en la respuesta de esas pruebas, entonces así mismo vamos a ir siguiendo el camino a la fase 2 y luego finalmente a la fase 3. Pero estamos en fase 1 y a partir del sábado 16, nuestra comunidad entra a esta nueva etapa, que quiere decir nada más que estamos un pasito adelante. No quiere decir que ya podemos salir todos y hacer nuestra vida normal y como era antes, porque ya habíamos hablado, esa vida que teníamos en enero, en febrero, va a cambiar definitivamente por mucho tiempo. Entonces, la fase 1 incluye los shopping centers y muchas tiendas que van a poder abrir con los lineamientos de capacidad y de distanciamiento. Eso es muy importante tenerlos en cuenta. Entonces, muchos de nuestros pequeños negocios ya van a poder abrir sus puertas y servir a sus clientes siempre con esas medidas de sanidad, manteniendo las mascarillas. Sabemos que no podemos obligar a nuestros clientes a utilizarlas, pero sí podemos tratar de motivarlos a que participen, porque de esa forma nos protegemos todos. Y luego, con mucha limpieza e higiene en sus establecimientos. Lugares de cuidado de niños, salones de belleza, barberías, lugares también de servicio para uñas, los museos, lugares, edificios de oficina, todo eso va a estar abierto.
¿Y siguen ustedes con este tipo de conversaciones donde pueden participar los miembros de la comunidad? Este es uno en particular para mujeres, el de conversación y café.
Así es. El tema para este mes es el tema financiero. Es importante que estemos muy al tanto de qué es lo que tenemos que hacer para hacer un mejor manejo de esas finanzas. ¿Qué debemos hacer para mejorar nuestro crédito? ¿Qué debemos hacer para tener acceso a capital? Tal vez tenemos algún proyecto por ahí que queremos realizar, o ahorita en tiempo de necesidad tal vez necesitemos un préstamo.
Como siempre, muy agradecida por toda la información que le brinda nuestra comunidad y nos vemos la próxima semana.
Muchas gracias, Ana María. Nos vemos la próxima semana y muchos éxitos a nuestra comunidad que reabre sus puertas para servicio. Esta semana estamos a la orden para cualquier pregunta.
Thank you for joining us on Viva NOLA TV. Remember, you can find more about Viva NOLA magazine by visiting vivanolamag.com. We're also on social media. You can find us by following the handles @VivaNOLAMag or @Viva_NOLA. That's all for tonight's edition of Viva NOLA TV. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Viva NOLA TV is brought to you by State Farm Agent Thelma Ceballos Myers, 504-366-1155. Romy Gonzalez and Associates, because experience matters, 504-581-2000. Fidelity Bank Power, a program designed to meet the unique needs of women in business. Bankwithfidelity.com. And by your New Orleans Geico Insurance Agent, Alan Boudreau, 504-457-2345.